Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started again, and you'll still need your paper towels, the cardboard, the mixing sticks, the glue, the pen. I don't think we're going to use the masking tape on this. And what you're going to need to get from the box is the body tube, which is the large white tube with the 3 slots on it, or in it. Bag number 3, which has 3 plywood fins. And take one of these out. We're just going to test fit some stuff. And then inside the box also is a wooden dowel that has a piece of tape, it may be blue, and a red marks a lot line on there. And those are what we need from the box for this episode. What we're going to be working on is inserting the motor mount into the rocket. And this is the device that the motor goes up into, and then it's glued into the rocket, and then the fins actually get glued in between here, and so it's a structural member. And so we talked a little bit about thrust and stuff, and so this motor is going to be pushing this way. We have our glue joints in the right places so that it doesn't push through the rocket, that the fins are going to be locked in there. They're not going to be able to fall off, and plus they'll get glued here and then on the outside of the rocket too. And so what we're going to talk about is how we're going to glue this up in there. And this is going to want to shoot itself through the rocket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on top of here, the epoxy, the JB weld. I'm going to stick it inside the rocket with the glue that's on there. I haven't glued anything in here. And then once I get to this point here, I'm going to put glue on the cardboard tube all the way around like this. Once this ring gets going up in there, it's going to take that glue and push it forward, and it's going to be glued like a block. It's going to have to rip that glue out. Once we get to this point here, we're going to put some glue on the ring itself and on the face of it. And then it gets all pushed up in there. And then that gets set to dry. The things we need to think about is, do the fins actually fit in here? How am I going to get the glue spread out that's in the various rings? How am I going to get this out now? So the little screw that we had for the blind nut, if we take that little screw, put it in that blind nut, we can use that for a handle for right now. Okay, so locate that screw. We're going to keep this handy. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that this fin fits in there and that I don't have any glue obstructing a nice solid surface against the motor tube. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to rotate it around, making sure I have plenty of clearance that I can get a nice glue line in there. If you have a big hump of glue or the glue fillet is too big, then what we can do is we're going to take the sandpaper, and what we would need to do is knock this corner here off, or this corner here. So we take our sandpaper, hold the fin kind of like a pencil at a 45-degree angle, and we just go back and forth like this. And then that takes that little corner off. I'm not sure if you can see it, but then it would let it sit down nice and flush. But again, we're only going to do that if we have to. If you took the little stirrer stick and you made the nice fillet rounded and stuff, then you're not going to have to worry about sanding your fins. Okay? So we're going to take that. We're going to put the fin away. We have our cardboard still, and on the back of the cardboard there's a couple of lines, and these lines happen to be 3 inches across. And I think it's going to be enough to do this and maybe one other glue project at the end of the video. So we're going to get ready to do stuff. We have our paper towels, we have our glue, we have a stir stick and a spreading stick. This other stuff can get out of the way. I have clothes on that I don't care that gets glue on it. I want to keep the glue off myself. And I'm going to recheck what I think I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be putting glue on the top of this ring, just like this, and spreading it around. I'm going to stick this inside the rocket body to about that point right there. And then I'm going to take some more glue and I'm going to put it on the cardboard tube. I can smear it around a little bit. Then I'm going to take and push the second ring, centering ring, up in there, just so that it engages. And then the last one is I'm going to put glue on here and maybe a little bit on the front. A couple of things we need to check is that we have the screw block is in place. We're going to be putting a screw in there. That the blind that I put in, that I put some JB weld on that. And that I've taken the line where this screw block is and I've carried it around because I want to be able to know where that is. When I put this together, there's a little X or cross. There's actually one up here too. And what I'm going to do is I need that screw block, which is right here, to line up in this area where this X or cross is. And so by having a line on the back side of that centering ring, I'll be able to push this up in there, and then before I put it down to dry, I can turn it with the screw and line that line that I put there with the X marks. Okay? So this is going to stay together. We're going to move this out a little ways there. We're going to go with the epoxy first. One thing I noticed is that the black is really thick. And I'm not sure if it's thick or if I just didn't open the hole enough. So I'm going to try again. And we're going to do a 3-inch. Kind of like the size of a caterpillar. Half the size of a pencil. About the size of this 1/4-inch rod. We've done black, so now we're going to do some white right next to it. Keep the heights the same and the lengths the same. Put the lids back on. And then we're going to mix this all together so that it's all the same color. And we don't see any black or white streaks in it. It's a little bit warmer today, and so this epoxy or the JB weld seems a little bit thinner. The other day when we were working, it was pretty cold out here, and it was pretty tough to work with. So everything's all mixed up. I have some extra paper towels in case I get it on me. We'll probably have to wipe it off the rocket here in a little bit. So the first is we're going to start with the single ring by itself, and all we're going to do is put a bead of glue, JB weld, around the top. And the amount is about a really small green pea. If you get too much, just pull it around. Okay, so I have a nice, maybe spaghetti-sized bead all around the top of that. I have some over the edges, and that's fine. So then I'm going to take the body tube. I'm going to insert this, making sure I don't get any on the desk or the workbench. You might have to twist it a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and push it in a little bit. So then the next bead I'm putting on the cardboard tube, which this second ring is going to be pushed up into. And the second ring actually ends right here. We're going to stay on that paper towel because I'm getting some glue out. Okay, good. Then we're going to go ahead and twist this in a little bit, or push. If I'm holding it where the slots are, it's going to make it a little bit harder to push in. So I move my hand up off where the slots are. I have my screw block very close to my X that I want to line up eventually. It's being a little tough. It just went in. I'm going to take this opportunity to wipe off any glue. There was just one little bit. There's some down here, so I'm going to cover that up. And then I'm going to take the rest of this, or not the rest of it, I'm going to continue. And I'm going to put it on the ring itself. Okay? And if you see me rolling it, eventually it's going to get on the paper towel. So I'm going to have to raise it up so I'm not putting it on and wiping it off at the same time. So okay, so we're going to start thinking about making sure that we have this glue block, the little grayish brown block that's lined up with the X that's on here. And I'll show you how to fix them if they're not. We're going to put a little bit on the glue block itself, or screw block. Right there. So if I got done and my screw block was here and my X is there, all I'm going to do is put one finger inside the motor tube, use my thumb, and I can spin this. And I'm looking for my line. My line is right here. There's the X, and then I'm going to push them together. And I want to hear them kind of engage. We're going to take the paper towel and we're going to wipe off any excess glue, especially off the body tube, because when this JB weld dries, it's very hard, and if you're sanding hard epoxy on cardboard tube, the cardboard will disappear way before you get the epoxy off. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, garbage can, take the screw out, plastic bag, and we're going to set this on the floor. We're going to pretend that this is the floor. Rock it down on it and give it a push, and that will push the motor mount where it needs to go. We're going to go ahead and come back, remove any more epoxy. Now there's epoxy all over this bag, and I don't want to use that because I don't want to glue anything to the bottom of this that I don't want to be there. So I have a second bag number 2. Is I'm going to put this on the floor. One thing I forgot to do is that I was looking at the wooden dowel that was over there, and we forgot to use it. And what it's for helping smear out the JB weld that's on the top here. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to try and keep this at a position that, don't worry about the color of the tape or the mark on there. Either end will go in. And all I'm doing is running that down there, and I'm going tap, 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 and I'm turning the tube real slow, and I'm trying to get some of that JB weld up onto the cardboard tube. I'm just trying to spread it out. So we're just going tap, 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 and we're spinning the tube. Just light taps. Okay? We're going to take that out, making sure we don't get epoxy all over the place. We're going to take that back and stick it on that plastic bag on the floor. We're going to talk about one thing. That when we get this all together, we should barely see the centering ring right here and barely see the centering ring right there. What we should have done is held that up, made them flush, and made sure that I had put them in there. But if you set them just around the ink marks on the motor tube, then it'll be fine. Okay, last time for the epoxy coming off. And then we're going to set that on the plastic bag that doesn't have epoxy on it. Okay, we still have some glue left, and we're going to use that up right now. So we're going to go to the box, and we're going to get bag number 4. We're going to make sure that we don't have epoxy all over the place like I do. Garbage. Garbage. Okay, so we have bag number 4. And what's inside bag number 4 is another one of those centering rings. Remember, we glued this up. That we want to make sure that the little standoff that we had in there, that we take that, and we don't need that anymore. So what we have is an anchor point, and we're making a baffle. And what a baffle is that we were talking in one of the episodes, is that at the top of the motor there's some black powder, and in this particular case there's 3/4 grams of black powder. That when this motor gets done burning in 7 seconds, because this is a G87, that in 7 seconds after this motor lights, that the black powder will be ignited and a big hot gas cloud is going to come up inside the rocket. And what that does for us is it makes a bunch of air inside the rocket, which makes the payload come out, which makes the parachute come out. Well, the problem with that is it's a very hot gas. It'll burn you. And so what we're making here is called a baffle, and it's going to be on top of that motor tube we just put, so that when this motor goes off, that black powder charge goes up in here, and it gets cooled down by these scrubbing pads that we're going to put in here, and it's going to be hot gas here, and we're going to end up with cool gas up near our parachute so that we don't melt it. So what these are, scrubbing pads. They come from the dollar store. They're made out of stainless steel. I did a little experiment, and I took 3/4 grams of black powder, and you can see how this one is all tarnished and stuff. It's not melted, it's actually stainless steel. And on top of this, I put a paper towel. And if I did this on top of the motor, the paper towel would be on fire and burning. And so what I did is I set off the 3/4 grams of black powder inside of a tube with only one of these, just to make sure it was doing what I wanted to do. And the paper towel got blown up in the air, and you can see that it's not burned. That there is some discoloration on here, and that's fine. And so that's what a baffle does, is it takes the heat out of the ejection charge. So what we're going to do is we're going to take what we made the other day, And we're going to take both of these scrubbing pads that are made out of stainless steel. It's going to roll away. And I'm going to push them down in here. I'm going to take the other one and put it in here. And I want them to take up all the space around the side. Okay? I'm going to push this down a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my other baffle plate and I'm going to put it in here and glue it so that we have a nice self-contained thing that we're actually going to glue this down into the rocket. This is actually an anchor point for our shock cord or a recovery system. So now that I have the leftover epoxy and stuff, we're going to take this, and as I'm doing this, I have a question for you. Which way is the force going to be applied to this baffle cover plate? What side do I really want the nice big glue fillet to be? And 3 inches seems just about right. Okay? So if I have this inside my rocket and the black powder goes off, the force is going to be up. And so by me putting the epoxy in there the way I did, and now I'm going to take and insert that right on top of the stainless steel scrubbing pad and push it down. That all that epoxy that I put in there has formed a nice bulkhead or fillet or a big glob of glue so that it's preventing that from being blown up into the rocket or the baffle. Okay? So then we're going to set that aside. And that's all we're going to be doing for today. I'm going to clean up here, make sure the lids are on everything, and we're going to wait overnight for this to dry. The other day I kept checking it, and it takes overnight. It doesn't like go from workable to hard. It just gets thicker and stuff. And that's going to come in handy in another couple of videos when we actually start applying the fins. So again, if you don't understand anything that I'm talking about or a particular thing, have a couple of students or friends watch it. Maybe they understand what I'm trying to get across. If you have no clue, have your instructor or your teacher email me, and we'll go from there and get it answered. Again, it's really hard to unglue things. It's really easy to ask a question before you glue them together.